Welcome to the Idaho Business Podcast, the only Idaho podcast focused on providing profits for Idaho people. If you love our state and love small business, you are in the right place. We interview local legends, learn business, and have way too much fun doing it. You're listening to the Idaho Business Podcast with your friend, host, and all-around great guy and owner of New Clean Commercial Cleaning, Spencer Ward.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Idaho Business Podcast. We're sponsored by Health West. We're ready to rock today. You know, I was thinking through the weekend, as most people do. Oh, you try to relax, you try to enjoy yourself. You know, we go throughout our weeks, we run our businesses, we run our teams, and we have people quit. We have people quit on good terms, we have people quit on bad terms. And then we sometimes have some people come back and try to say, hey, rehire me. What makes you, do you have processes set up to set, for you to understand what is black and white to make you realize, okay, this person's rehireable, this person's not? If someone leaves you high and dry, but you need someone right now, you need a body, no matter what your business is, are you going to trust that person again? It's like that. What's that story of the frog and the scorpion? Don't you trust me? I'm not going to sting you. And but it's in the nature of the scorpion to sting. For me, yes, I know people can change, but you've got to trust and put systems in place. So you got to put things in place so no matter what someone does to you, these are the systems. So, for example, if someone hoses you and does a no-call, no-show and says, hey, I'm out, not going to show, or it's constant 5 minutes before work starts. Sorry, I'm sick. Sorry, I'm out of town and my car broke down, and it's constantly one thing after another. You're like, nah, it's just not going to work, man. And then later on, they come back to work, and they want to work, and you're thinking, and they're thinking, well, let's give this another try. Do you have systems? You've got to realize, just because you need someone, or maybe you like them personally, that's where it gets tricky. And that's where your systems have to be very black and white to say, okay, this person's rehireable, this person's not. Now, when someone gives you, your 2 weeks notice and has been a great employee, and you're like, hey, I found an opportunity, or, I've been in schooling as I've worked for you. Now I've finished my schooling and I'm going to become whatchamacallit with my schooling, education done. Perfect. Congratulations. Totally understandable. If that ever came back and you're like, hey, I'd love to come back to work for you later on, totally rehireable. But that's where we have to understand that those people are different than the scorpions. We can say there's scorpions out there, and then I don't know what's the other type of analogy I could use to describe these other people, just the good applicants. Because I know we've all been burned before. We've all wanted to believe that some of these people have changed, and maybe they have. Maybe a few minority of them have changed, and you're thinking, okay, this person has changed. He was in a bad circumstance, or she was a bad circumstance before. Now she's changed, and everyone else has that same opportunity to change. But typically, the majority of them don't, and they'll end up stinging you again. So that's where your systems come in place, that you say, sorry, You set that up when you hire them. Say, hey, if these boundaries are crossed and these actions are taken, it's a termination, and you're not rehireable at this point. So they know, firm boundaries are set up, that things are taken, and there's no surprises. So there's no, hopefully at that point there's no, people swearing at you, and there's no cussing. And they just understand, like, that's the rules of the company. That's not just my random off the cuff decision, but this is the rules that we've put in standard, and this is what we've agreed to as we were hired. That's very set in plain. This is what we're going to do. You are spending so much money as you are spending money on Facebook. You're spending money on Indeed. You're spending money on Glassdoor. You're spending money wherever you're spending money, whatever avenue you're spending on. Maybe you're on the radio, maybe you're on billboards. And every applicant, if you break down the cost per applicant, and then not all those applicants are coming in for interviews, right? Okay, so then the cost of every interview is higher than the cost of applicants, because it's a reduced number at that point. Then those people, all those interviews don't all become hired, so those costs are a little higher. Those people that make it through that interview phases to the second interview phase and third interview phase, that's all money being spent. So for you to just say, I'm going to give this person another try, you're thinking, what? They already know my systems. They already know this and this and this, but then they'll end up burning you and leaving you high and dry. You got to think, how much money is that going to cost you in extra scheduling, extra time and labor, and having to put jobs off for another day because you don't have the necessary labor to finish the said job. Or, and I'm giving service-based or blue collar examples here, but that's even white collar examples too. There's this is examples, works for everything, because scorpions are scorpions, and you have to just, if there's not clear, concise boundaries set, they'll take advantage. And I wish that wasn't the case, and I love to, give people second chances, but you have to have those rules set in place. So if you don't have anything set in place like that, put something in place. If this happens, then this has to happen. If this happens, if these actions are taken by you, then this happens. These are the actions that I'm going to agree to. I agree to employ you as your employer and give you a fair wage. Okay, and these are the things I agree to do. In return, these are the things you agree to do. And if these actions are taken by you in the other direction, then these are the steps and the consequences on our side that has to happen. If you don't have that kind of stuff set up now, please have them set up, because it'll make sure guys' lives so much easier. If you're running a team, running a company, it's just setting good ground rules in place, because we've had people come back and say, hey, I want my job back. It was fun working here. Well, unfortunately, you no-called, no-showed. You left your team high and dry. And, we agreed when you were hired, and the employment agreement you signed said that this was the consequence, that you were, it'd be a termination and you would not be rehireable. So it's very spelled out at that point. So it's a very cut and dry episode today. I just was thinking about that over the weekend, because you have fantastic employees that work for you. And you think about it this way: if you have core values set up, and it's, for example, mine's be honest, have fun, work together, and, make money. And your employees see you bring on someone, and then they see them go against the grain and go against the core values, and they get terminated. But then they see the owner of the company or the leader of that group bring that employee back on, they're thinking, well, wait a minute, that employee was totally went against our core values, but our leader, our owner, is now bringing that individual, or scorpion, we'll call that, back onto the team. That doesn't make sense. And then you've got some conflict within your good employees. They're thinking, well, what? That's unfair, and they're thinking, we're being dealt a bad hand because we're over here working our butts off and we're being judged by the company standard. But here this person is, and he did something or she did something that was definitely not cool, left the company or got fired and now gets to come back. That's not cool. So now you start getting some dissension in the ranks, and that's really not going to be good for morale. So you got to look at it at both sides, because part of you're thinking, oh man, I just need another person. Maybe I need a good graphic design person. This guy or gal is really good at the graphic design side, but man, she was always late. She was always coming up with excuses. He was always doing this. He was always doing this. And then we had to let him go. Your team's going to see that. Your team is going to recognize that. If you bring that person back on, your team is not going to like it. Your team is going to be less efficient, and your core values are going to start dwindling within that team and within your company, because you're bringing on scorpions. So think about that kind of stuff when you are making those decisions. When you have on the flip side, when you have employees that leave the company, in good standings, and your employees are, they know that and they understand that, and then they're welcomed back, then it's a completely different story. They're thinking, well, awesome, Brittany's back, Dan's back, cool, sweet, excited to have him back. That's a fun story. That's a comeback story. Whereas welcoming a scorpion back onto your team is not. So, moral of the story: stay away from the scorpions. Have systems in place to know how to make those decisions, clear and concise at the beginning when you hire. And I know the big corporations and the big companies have this stuff set up. They have big HR departments. I'm talking mostly to the smaller companies, the startups, and the smaller companies that are just trying to, get things rolling. And maybe you're rolling for years, and maybe you have a crew of 5 to 10 people, and you haven't had to deal with it much, or maybe you have a little bit, and some of the words I'm speaking are ringing true in your ears, and you're thinking, yeah, I've let a few scorpions in, and I've seen what you just said ring true in my ear. Yeah, my employees have not liked it when I brought them back, and guess what? I've got stung before. I've got stung again. So don't get stung. Don't get stung twice. Don't be that frog that's trying to be trusting. Oh, you've changed, right? You're not going to be a scorpion, even though you are a scorpion, right? You're not going to do this. Trust them. They're showing you who they are from the get-go. So just trust, take them at their word, trust who they are, and just let them be them. Second chances are out there, but let them, find another position and another job with another company that's more fitted to them and their talents. And hopefully they won't sting their next employer, because hopefully they've learned, and this is a good lesson for them, because this opportunity for them to learn a lesson is good, because maybe they're thinking, wow, I stung that guy or I stung that gal. It's not a fun lesson to learn. This next time I go, to this other company, I got to make sure I change. Because I've interviewed too many people that I'm like, they'll be honest with me, because one of our core values is honest. Well, tell me about your last couple places of employment. Well, how did you leave them? And maybe there are less than stellar ways of how they left them. Okay. And then they'll say, well, it's going to be different this time because X, Y, and Z. Okay. Why? If you were on my side, why would I believe you? And they'll give you all these different stories. And I've tried it. I've tried, to believe some of them, and I've brought some on, and very, very few of them have not stung me. So I'm not saying, don't ever, take a chance, but don't take a chance to get stung twice by the same person. Anyways, go out there, perfect your systems, stay positive, stay grateful, and just go out there and dominate, and be kind. It adds no more effort just to be kind to someone. Go out there and dominate. Have a great day. Have a great week. Adios, guys.
Congratulations on spending a couple of minutes getting a little bit smarter, having some fun, and supporting the Idaho business community. If you're feeling the love, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you are.